Good afternoon. On the big match today, Spurs set out to make inroads on Everton's lead at the top. Their visit to the bottom club Stoke is one of our games today. And just look at this, the top of the second division coming to yesterday's games. We've got the top four in action, Oxford against Birmingham City and the leaders Blackburn against second place Manchester City. And indeed, that's the match we start with, Blackburn against Manchester City. Our commentator at Ewood Park, Peter Brackley.
It's a vital month for City with matches at Birmingham and Oxford to follow. Today they're without Clive Wilson again through a mystery illness, but Steve Kinsey has recovered from flu. The manager feels his pace could be vital, so he replaces Jim Tolmie up front. Well, Blackburn haven't been at their best in recent weeks, but nonetheless they've not been outside the first three now since early November. Noel Brotherston is out today with the ankle injury that kept him out of Northern Ireland's squad in the week. His place goes to Mark Patterson, and Bob Saxon also restores Colin Randall to midfield. And how will City cope with Northern Ireland's Jimmy Quinn, very much in form for Rovers, and who knows what might have happened in Belfast if his first half header against England had gone in rather than struck the bar. The referee today is Ken Redfern from Whitley Bay.
So the City manager, Billy McNeil, on his 45th birthday, takes his seat as we join the match in the first half. It's 0-0, Blackburn in the blue and white shirts.
Well, here's Patterson, just 19. Played quite a few matches last season, but this only his second full game of this term. Lovely ball that from Garner, finding Miller. And Rovers have got 3-4 players in the penalty area. That was Quinn. Well, he beat the defender in the air there, Jimmy Quinn. Good jump then by Phillips, who was caught by Fazakali. Baker with the free kick. Here's May. Found Kinsey, player who could turn defenders so well. Melrose jumping there, and here's Gordon Smith, who seems to be operating on City's left. Good ball in too. Melrose! Superbly smothered then by Geno. Melrose denied by the swift actions then of Terry Geno, who's having an outstanding season. Baker. Powell with a lovely ball through, and here's Kinsey. Good save by Geno. Kinsey seemed to have struck it well enough, but Geno got down extremely well to part the ball wide. A clear opening there for Kinsey, and Geno saving Blackburn. Well, City have a corner, but they're so nearly there, took the lead. Phillips with the corner. McCarthy had stayed here on the edge of the area. And here's Quinn. McNabb's ball through and offside. Baker. There's Kinsey. McNabb made a good run through the middle, and so has Melrose here. The Rovers could be stretched. Geno! Kinsey! Geno somehow kept it out, and Kinsey couldn't turn it in. Melrose with the shot there, beaten away. Kinsey going in, and straight into the goalkeeper's arms. A real let-off there for Blackburn. Steve Kinsey unable to convert the opportunity. Rathbone with a free kick for Blackburn, who've been under some pressure here from Manchester City and can consider themselves reasonably fortunate. The score is still 0-0. Zakali's free kick. Look how high McCarthy climbed there. Not too much gets past him in the air. Rathbone. Keeley has come forward. That was Quinn. Power now for Manchester City. Baker. Off goes Melrose. Policed though by Fazakali. Baker. Here's Kinsey. City have certainly looked dangerous in the last few minutes. Randall's tackle. And here come Rovers. Barker. Good ball played out there to Rathbone. Barker couldn't make contact. Can Miller hit one? Well, he hit it all right. Claiming the corner too. Kinsey into the path of Melrose. Now for Smith. Kinsey wanted it first time in the middle. Zackley was able to clear. Reed. Baker, splendid pass and finding power. Phillips arriving, and Kinsey there too. Kinsey! He's got it! Well, he's chosen quite a moment to score his first goal since November. What an important one it could prove to be. Power did well here down the City left. Kinsey arriving here, failed to make contact there, came back to him, and he scrambled it over the line. So delight for those City fans. 38 minutes gone, and Manchester City have taken the lead here. Steve Kinsey with his 6th goal of the season. And what reward for Billy McNeil, who decided to play him today in preference to Jim Tolby, as Williams is called into the action there at the other end. Billy McNeil has been delighted with the way that Kinsey has been playing. He feels that if he can just add that sharpness in front of goal, well, he'd be some player. Randall with the corner. No problems there for Williams. And Blackburn have got to come from behind, as they did against Oxford last week. And they've certainly shown plenty of resilience, and they've needed to do that this season. Kinsey, ball for Melrose, still Melrose, side netting. Nearly 2, Billy McNeil. Well, his decision to bring back Steve Kinsey has paid off, and his side nearly got a second one there. Jim Melrose just striking it wide. Rovers muster something here. This is Patterson. Garner and Quinn are in the middle. Williams acrobatically away. Melrose. Rovers have committed players forward. Kinsey. Good shot. Just wide. The goal that he scored in the first half has clearly lifted his morale. He's playing at the moment with a lot of confidence. And the shot wasn't far away. Reed away. And here's Randall. Now for Patterson. Decides to go on alone. Really ran into a posse of defenders, but he won the free kick. They've taken it quickly. Rathbone crossing it in. Baker is still down. On his feet now, but here's Garner. Rovers pressing strongly here. And then the shot really was lacking. Ryan Baker, who's been in the wars on a couple of occasions this afternoon, holding his right arm there. And here we can see what happened with Graham Baker, looking to ward off the threat there of Patterson. There's the tackle. And He seems to go down on his arm. Baker indeed is going off, and clearly in some pain. So Jim Tolmie has his chance to impress. He did well actually in the game last week against Brighton, but Neil decided to bring back Kinsey. Baker goes off, and Jim Tolmie comes on. Melrose. Ran straight into Keeley, still ploughing forward. Barker's tackle and a corner. Well, he won't be too disappointed with the way it's gone so far. Still explaining tactics there. Power who takes the kick, finding Phillips. Rovers streaming out. No offside though, but Keeley climbed highest. Andy May, rather hopeful. Here's Garner. As ever, hounded by Reed. Now Barker and Rathbone. Here's for Zachary. City have pulled almost everybody back. Rovers seeking to penetrate. Quinn was in there. It was May who headed it clear. Straight to Zachary. Brannigan's cross. McCarthy got up. Still City struggling to get it away. Didn't reach Quinn. Miller with the cross. Garner's in there. Well, he felt he'd earned the corner. It was Miller who knocked it back across. You'll see Garner coming in at the far post. And who did it come off? Well, the referee decides it came off Garner. Rovers will now make their substitution. Colin Randall is coming off, and John Lowy will eventually come on. And the referee is still anxious to keep the game going. A lovely ball slotted through then to Melrose. City quickly throwing players forward. Tolmie. The far post. Well, he had time then to measure his header, but it was inaccurate. A lovely break though by City. And when the cross comes over, there's plenty of time there for Melrose, for Tolmie rather, and he couldn't direct the header on target. Well, here's Garner. Can he turn it in? And away by McCarthy. Garner so close. Lowy. Oh, the referee was in the way. Well, Quinn might have hit through then. Garner. Here's Quinn. Didn't fall for Patterson. The City suddenly realise the points aren't yet secure. Brannigan. Now for Miller. That will have lifted Rovers. Here's Garner, the man who so nearly found the equaliser. Squirmed himself into a very useful position indeed. Williams off his line, but off the crossbar. So are we in for a grandstand finish? 5 minutes left. Lowy away by Williams. Just wide by Keeley. Williams might well have been stranded there. I know there was a defender on the line. McCarthy. Keeley. Perhaps one final effort here from Blackburn. Rathbone with the cross in. Keeley couldn't get up. Oh, where was Phillips going? Brought down, no, wouldn't have counted. Foul, I think, there by Barker. It's all over. And Manchester City top the second division for the first time this season. Steve Kinsey, the man who's won this game for them, the only goal of the game. And City may well take some stopping now after this.
Indeed, a splendid game, and that's a vital victory for Manchester City. It puts them 2 points clear at the top of the table now. In fact, they've won 11 of their last 18 games. I'll be showing you the top of the table in a moment. The only bad news for Manchester City is that Graham Baker, here we see him being helped off yesterday. He's been kept in hospital with a dislocated shoulder, and judging by Brian Robson and Mark Lawrenson, who both had this, Graham could well be out of action for a few weeks. Well, also playing yesterday were Oxford United, who were third, against Birmingham City, who were fourth. Here's the goal action then from the Manor Ground in Oxford yesterday. And Birmingham really couldn't have got off to a better start, with this goal coming up after just 7 minutes. The shot from Wayne Clark after Hardwick had missed his punch, and Birmingham go into the lead. But there was better news for the visitors after 17 minutes when they went up quite a nicely worked free kick here between Hopkins and Cool, and eventually off a defender. The ball breaks very conveniently indeed for David Geddes, and Geddes' clinical finishing putting Birmingham City 2 up. But Oxford were battling well, and there was one eccentric moment, in fact just 2 minutes before half-time. Out comes the Birmingham keeper David Seaman, a poor clearance that falls straight to David Langer. Now watch this, off the foot of the post into the grateful arms of Seaman, and it stays 2-0 to Birmingham. And in fact, Birmingham wrapped it up on the hour with this goal here. Some good work coming up from Mark Jones, in point of fact, following that throw. The cross coming in here, and Wayne Clark with a good glancing header, 3-0 to Birmingham City. So, at the top of the second division today then, Manchester City, the new leaders, with 55 points. But you notice, of course, the game's in hand still for Oxford and for Birmingham. But quite a battle warming up for those 3 promotion places. Well, coming up next, up to the first division for Stoke City against Tottenham after the break. Welcome back. Well, while Everton and Manchester United were battling out a superb draw at Old Trafford, Spurs knew that there must be a chance of a victory against the bottom club Stoke to keep their championship ambitions going. And quite a nice little milestone, really, because it was 9 years ago this month that a young Glenn Hoddle made his first full appearance for Spurs, and it was in a game at Stoke. He scored the winning goal that day.
Perriman then with this free kick. Far post for Young. Smith up. And that was Pratt trying it. Duncan there, and in for Suarez. Needs a lob from Hoddle. He did tremendously well, Glenn Hoddle.
9 years on from that spectacular first league goal, Glenn Hoddle's massive potential is still not totally fulfilled. Unable again to break into the England team in Belfast on Wednesday. But for most Tottenham supporters, Hoddle's unique abilities hold the key to their challenge for the championship. Today, Spurs have Paul Miller back from the hamstring injury sustained in the FA Cup defeat at Liverpool. But Tony Galvin's return is earmarked for Real Madrid next Wednesday, so Ali Dick stays on the left of midfield. While Garth Crooks, who started his career here at Stoke, has that special incentive to do well against the former club. It's home products that Stoke must rely on today. 7 former apprentices, including Alan Dodd, who's returned from Wolves on a monthly contract, and Philip Heath, who takes over from the injured Mark Chamberlain. Barry Siddall, on loan from Port Vale, is the 5th goalkeeper used by Stoke this season, while Keith Birchin has been so starved of chances since his November move from Norwich that he's still awaiting his first goal. And today's referee comes from Halifax. It's Trevor Simpson. Tottenham's away record inducing tremendous support and probably outnumbering the Stoke City fans here. So Stoke kick off with a weakening grip on their first division status, but from this stage last season they produced 30 points from their last 16 games to produce a miraculous escape, and their hope now is to try to emulate that, as John Chidozie instantly on the receiving end. And a cautionary word for the player who put him there, Chris Mascari. Chiedoze's threat such that an early tackle is always likely for him of that nature. Now Houghton. Hoddle. Houghton stayed forward, and it was dragged away by Berry, only as far as Houghton, when Crooks was in, sensing a chance. And Dick was trying to loop it back. And lacked the execution, with Siddle just straying off his line in the skirmish that had happened a moment or two earlier. Was Houghton doing well to play the ball in first time, and Berry, sliding in, found the ball stuck under his boot, but hacked it away from Crooks. Roberts into the back of Painter. It's been a harrowing season for the Stoke youngsters, like Ian Painter. Really, Bill Asprey forced by financial circumstance to include more young players than he would like. Perriman. Here's Crooks, linking up with Hoddle, and that raking pass in the Hoddle manner. The bold with the longer stride, getting ahead of Dick. But Glenn Hoddle, so effective when players in front of him are moving away from him towards the opponent's goal. Hoddle can pick them out on their run. Poor clearance from Siddle, knocked forward by Falco. Crooks is in, and the chip is just too high. And the player who scored goals here to help Stoke into the First Division back in 1979 had an opportunity from Siddle's weak clearance to put his former club in further trouble, but you could see how close the chip was. So a let-off for Stoke, and that will certainly work in their favour. The last thing they wanted was to concede an early goal. Painter, over the shoulder from Hoddle. Berry was there first, but the control wasn't good enough, and Crooks took it from him. Dyson. Hoddle. 20 minutes of the first half remaining. Here's Gary Stevens for Tottenham. Crooks given time to turn on the edge of the area. That could have been costly for Stoke. I think even Crooks was surprised. The ball delivered crisply to his feet, but First Division defenders really should get tighter. On for Painter to chase. He accelerated for a moment away from Roberts. It certainly didn't go out. Heath prepared to take Roberts on. Now Dodd. Stoke really looking for some quality, and the final ball played in now. They've allowed Tottenham to get their numbers back. And then it's rather just humped forward by Berry. And the moment had long passed. Chiedoze. Tottenham not short of wing skill themselves, of course. Immediately one says that. The ability to beat a player isn't matched by the cross. From Chiedoze, the pink can be a little infuriating to have in your side. Such rich ability. Stevens. Free kick given against Dyson for a push on Mark Falco, who's found it hard to get into the game in the first half. So Perriman has gone across to take the free kick. Looks for Falco. And he was pushed right on the edge of the area by Berry. And Falco, who was involved in the skirmish at White Hart Lane, which saw George Berry sent off earlier this season. And it's well within the compass of Glenn Hoddle, as Siddall will know only too well. Either side of the ball stand Stevens and Roberts. And the referee making sure Stoke get back the required distance. Here's Hoddle, pushed onto the post. Credit the goalkeeper with a fine save. It was quite clear what was coming. Barry Siddall just got the answer and had a bit of luck as well. Certainly his fingertips onto the post. And then behind by Crooks for the goal kick. Here's Heath. Crooks having to work back. And it's been no easy passage for the team that started the day second in the First Division. As indeed Peter Shreve, the Tottenham manager, expected, he'll be pleased with Glenn Hoddle's contribution, which included the moment that brought us closest to a goal when his shot from a free kick was touched onto a post by Barry Siddall. But at half-time at the Victoria Ground, it's Stoke City 0, Tottenham Hotspur 0. So away go Tottenham at the start of the second half. Stoke City looking to end a run now that has gone 8.5 hours without a goal in the First Division. Tottenham knowing that a draw here really isn't enough for them, and Siddall, a terrible error, and Crooks says thank you. 21 seconds into the second half. Crooks with a look of disbelief. Barry Siddall would want the ground to open up and swallow him up. It was hit too long this time by Hoddle, but Siddall all over the place. An open goal for Garth Crooks against his old club. Tottenham in the lead. And if you're looking for moments of good fortune to win your championships, Tottenham will perhaps look back at the mistake by Siddall. Garth Crooks will have no easier task. Falco and Stoke, who would be pleased with the way they got in the first half, now have the familiar uphill battle. Well, in his efforts to keep Stoke City afloat, Bill Asprey has had to go into hospital for physical and mental exhaustion. Happily he's recovered now, but Barry Siddall's mistake might have induced a relapse. McElroy trying to keep Stoke ticking over in midfield. Tottenham continuing to work hard. Berry. Now Birchin, and Clements in the same situation that Siddall found himself in. But he's made a career of coming outside his area as the last defender, has Ray Clements. Painter losing out, Dick is on his way. What will he do this time? He tries to set up Crooks. Off the bar. Corner given. But this time, more composure from Ali Dick, Crooks rattled at the bar after it touched Alan Dodd on the way. Over Roberts, here's Stevens. Tottenham repositioning. Dick. That's Miller. Siddall didn't touch it. Paul Miller hasn't scored since the first leg of last season's UEFA Cup final. He's been taking a spot of gentle ribbing from his teammates about that fact. Don't really have to gamble now. Painter chases, hoping for a slip by Roberts. It wasn't forthcoming. Dyson misjudged it. Gold was the defender behind him. Hoddle. Few players in the country could have found Garth Crooks the way that Hoddle did then. You can see how close Crooks was initially, but he knew where Hoddle wanted to play it. And Tottenham have another corner. Aiming to attack the ball around the penalty spot, only if the corner arrives in the air. Perriman across covering. Hoddle. Siddall will have to endure the jeers from the Tottenham fans behind him for the remainder of the game, you can be sure of that. Penalised this time for backing in. Crooks. Good layoff. And Stevens, clean through. Good positioning by Siddall. A direct route from Tottenham. Roberts' free kick, searching out Crooks, who'd come off George Berry. Stevens bearing down on Siddall's goal, but couldn't thread the shot past him. Alan Dodd is the player who is called off. Steve Parkin, 19-year-old midfield player, captain Stoke's youth team last season, comes on with 10 minutes left. Last throw of the dice by Bill Asprey. Parkin involved straight away. Easily quashed by Tottenham. They could have had more than the one goal by which they lead. Houghton. Stevens. Now Chidozie. Falco and Crooks have repositioned in the area, and then left Stevens. He's manipulated shooting openings throughout the match, Gary Stevens, on his 200th league appearance. And it flicked Siddall's fingertips, it flicked the bar. Dick with the corner once more. Stevens climbing the highest. Back from Chidozie. Crooks! That's a superb save. That makes up for the slip. But Garth Crooks must have felt he scored again here, but a reflex save by Siddall to keep him out. Birchin. Catastrophic error by Barry Siddall in the Stoke goal, the sort of thing that happens when your team is at the bottom of the table. Gave Garth Crooks a welcome home present to Stoke and gave Tottenham their 9th away win in the First Division this season. Stoke's hopes of matching last season's miraculous escape from relegation surely are receding, and Tottenham can now look forward to 10 of their remaining 15 league games being at White Hart Lane. Final score at the Victoria Ground, Stoke City 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1.
Well, Spurs certainly looking as though they deserve that win. A gift goal, though, and it brings 3 points for them. And Spurs, as you can see, now move to within 2 points of Everton. But what is just as significant, as Martin said, is that they are now left with 10 of their last 15 games at home. And incidentally, 2 of the visitors still to White Hart Lane this season will be Manchester United and Everton. Well, I suppose after their win again yesterday, controversial penalty though it may have been against Nottingham Forest, you still can't rule out Liverpool. Well, that's it for today. The race for the championship gets hotter, and whoever wins it, well, it'll be the reward for some quality football played over 42 games, spiced by 1 or 2 moments of outrageous good fortune, as Spurs found to their joy at Stoke yesterday. Good afternoon.
And Siddall, a terrible error, and Crooks says thank you.